My first experience started when I was very young, 10 years of age as a matter of fact. I come from this small town in Canada called Fort Erie, 7,000 people, very small town. I would come home from school for lunch. My father did too. He'd pick up the mail at the post office. We had to go and get it ourselves there. And he'd bring it home, and we would, Friday afternoon was the day that Life magazine came, and that was a big deal. And I remember so well that after we'd have lunch, he'd lay it out on the table, and we'd go through every page, as much as we had time for, before I had to get back to school and he had to get back to work. But we'd look at all the different pictures. And that was the beginning of my excitement for photography. It all started there. And just think, here I am in this small town where nothing special really seemed to happen. And at that time, I looked at the pictures which were from Europe and Asia, and as well as the United States and all over the world, Latin America. And there was somebody out there taking those pictures. And I wanted to know about those people. And those were the coolest people in the world, men and women. And the more I learned about them, the more excited I was. And I thought to myself, I want to be that kind of a guy. That's me. That's who I would love to be. That was the beginning of a career. And I never thought I'd make any money in some ways or anything. That wasn't my motivation. That wasn't what I was driven by. It was just the idea of being able to capture images and show the world how I saw things. That was really the deepest motivation for me about photography. Now, how did I move forward? I had many, many jobs. Quite frankly, I never kept a job that long because I would become impatient. I would keep wanting to move forward. And I had different jobs. I mean, I worked in a commercial studio at one point in Buffalo, New York, and another one in Richmond, Virginia. That was a printing plant, offset printing plant, and that was good because I learned a great deal about printing at the same time. It was a photo studio and printing plant, so I learned more. And I find as I look back, I kept collecting really an education in this. I got some traditional education, yes, but the best education was in the field for me. And one stage after another, and then I finally thought, I have to get to New York. And I did get to New York, and I worked with a very prominent Vogue photographer named Irving Penn. I was very lucky. Some people say, how did you ever get such a job? You know how? Again, I wrote letters to him. And finally, he agreed to letting me come and meet him. And he said, you know, I have no job. I have no job, but come by and I will talk with you. And I did, and what happened is he didn't have a job at that time, but about 6 months down the road he did, because the guy who had been there as one of his 3 assistants, one of them, had to go into the military, into the Army. And so there was an opening, and I got that opening. And so that's how it happens sometimes. You have to reach forward at each stage. Now, so here I am working for Penn, which was an extraordinary experience. I learned a great deal there. I mean, watching the Vogue editors march in and seeing just how the whole system worked, how he used cameras, how they used lights, how people interacted. I had never seen that in the small town world that I had grown up in. I mean, photography didn't represent that. So in New York, eventually, I had the most extraordinary thing happen. One of my first jobs was working for Popular Photography. How did I get that job? I got that job just by, again, making calls, and I made notes of the editors' names who were in the magazine and called them, and I got through to one of the top ones, a guy named Bob Schwalberg, and he was one of my heroes because I used to read his text all the time in Popular Photography. And I went in with my portfolio and showed it to him. And I remember very well, one afternoon, about 5 o'clock, he looked at it and he said, hey, you're pretty good. And he introduced me to some other people at the magazine, and that got me started at working with Popular Photography. And then, frankly, it went on through a series, again, of small steps. And before I knew it, I was called and asked to come in and try out for a job at Look magazine. Now, at the time I got to Look, I was just shortly I was going to be 25. In a couple more months I'd be 25 years of age. Here I am living in New York. They're respecting me. They think I can really take pictures. I mean, I sometimes thought it was a con. You know, I said they're going to find me out, but they never did. They always trusted me. And it energized me, just having these chances, and just let me shoot. I mean, I'd never imagined I would be shooting the big celebrities that I eventually did, but I wanted to use my camera, and I wanted to show people what I saw, and I wanted to do it always as good as I possibly could. In any case, that led to a full-time job at Look magazine, and that's when the world opened up to me. I mean, I traveled all over, I met big people, small people, and I learned how to communicate. I learned the essence of photojournalism at that time, which went on then to portraiture and other areas. But this is just the beginning, and this is how my career began. And then I got into photographing a lot of stars, and that's a separate story, which began with Elizabeth Taylor. And I got started there, and it went on to all of the pictures that I'm more known for. But my first star for me is photography itself. That's where the seed of it all lies. And the interesting thing, I must advise you that magazines come and go. We've seen a lot of that. I mean, there isn't really a Look or Life today, but they got me started, and that's where I grew up. And part of the job, if you want to be a photographer, is falling on your feet, reinventing yourself, and because it's constantly evolving, and that's true of most professions of this type. I am in what's frequently called a glamour profession or job, and boy, it has been very good for me because I've been able to go all over the world. I work with my wife Françoise here, who does everything with me. She's my agent, my lover, as we say, dances with the clients. You know, they like to have Françoise around. In any case, a lot of good stuff, and this is where we live today. We travel a lot. We've got a very good life, and we enjoy ourselves. I have been such a lucky guy. I really have. Small steps, but I did get to this place, and I would never have imagined I'd be sitting here talking with you today from this position. I'm in my early 70s now, and it's been quite a ride and a wonderful one, and I enjoy starting each day in this job.